Sounds good. Looks good. Feels good.
All right. All right. Thank you for coming to the Mind Your Business show, episode 19. I can't believe it's episode 19. It feels like it's been flying by right now. You know, got a lot of people coming up. Today, I will be interviewing my dad. We'll go more in depth about that. First, I want to shout out my sponsors, Paradiso Vacay. Thank you for the equipment. Thank you for all the support that you're giving me and the support you're going to give me into the future. I love that. And thank you for Aventino watches. Thank you. They're a place out in Paris, France that you can get your watches from. They have luxury watches, sports watches, whatever you like. And thank y'all for the support as well. So today I'll be interviewing my dad, of course, Martin Stringer. He runs a baseball program called C.A.P.S School of Baseball. He's been my dad for 31 years now. There's so many things I can say, but I would say he's a baseball savant. He knows the ins and outs, the bunting, the pitching, the hitting. I mean, whatever you need, he knows. He teaches youth kids baseball on the regular. So if you have any kids out there that aspire to play baseball, or you would want your kids to play baseball to go in that direction, he'd be the guy to hit up. So we'll go ahead and get it started. Is there anything you want to tell the people about yourself?
Well, my name is Martin Stringer, and I'm glad to be here today. Thanks for having me on your show. My background is I've been in baseball for 35 years. I started out in youth baseball like any other young man. I played baseball in the state of Connecticut, played in high school, played in college. In 1997, I was given the responsibility to run the C.A.P.S School, the RBI baseball program, Major League Baseball. I ran that for 7 years. Out of that program, we had a lot of players come through there. In 2005, I started C.A.P.S School of Baseball.
Okay, nice. There you go. Great intro. I love that. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the C.A.P.S School of Baseball. What even inspired the idea for you to want to make that, to want to work with kids in baseball, and particularly kids more so than adults or high school kids or even, pro players? What made you want to dive into the youth baseball?
Well, being involved in baseball myself, and of course Philip, my son, coming up in baseball, gave me an opportunity to see baseball at a youth level. I saw during that particular time that there was a tremendous need for a lot of player development, especially in youth baseball, for our skill development and work. Many times we see that kids are playing baseball, but they're not playing very competently. I thought it was important to start a program to develop their skills.
Okay. So you said 1997 you were in the RBI program. So how long have you been in business with the C.A.P.S School of Baseball? Did the RBI baseball inspire that, or was it something maybe from your childhood of you playing baseball that inspired it in that way? Like, how long have you been in business first and foremost?
What inspired it was in 2004, the city of Houston was getting ready to eliminate the program, and I decided that I wanted to continue in baseball because we were funded by the city. The city decided to get rid of the program, so I decided that within a year, I'd write a plan and be able to take those strategies, those ideas, and put it in a system and create a baseball program that could develop players. My program started in 2005 and is still going as we speak.
Oh, nice. I like that. So since, we'll dive deeper into the business, and, you told me to talk about a few different things, but comparing, you don't necessarily have to compare yourself to other baseball programs because you have your own, but what would you say is unique about your program and everything that you do with it?
One of the uniqueness of my program, I believe, is that I've created a system that will allow players not only to be trained with me, but trained at home. Most of my players I work with have in their backyard, they have hitting cages, etc. And what I do with my program, they are with me once a week, and then they do things on their own. I monitor what they do. They respond to me what they do. I go watch them play games. Their parents send me video of them. So I'm always engaging with them because my program is very interactive with the player.
Okay. So I kind of want to go off that too as well. So whenever you're doing this program that you do and you're helping these students out, there has to be some obstacles that you go through within that whole process, and trying to, probably, find what makes that player tick, what he's good at, what he's not good at. So what was like maybe the biggest challenge that you had in regards to training a player, and what was maybe the easiest situation that you might have had training a
The
player?
biggest challenge I had in training the players is that many times players come to me from different programs.
Yeah.
And when they come from different programs, they have different ideas, different values, maybe like a passion, their biomechanical flaws. So what I do before I work with a person, I get together with their family, do a family assessment. I find out their goals and objectives, and then I do a video analysis of the player. That gives me an idea where the player is at skill-wise.
Yeah.
And each player, after I do video analysis of the player, I write a report of the player. That gives me a starting point where they're at. After that, then I get a system for them. Each player has its own customized system to meet their various needs.
Oh, okay. See, I think that's interesting just because, I mean, I couldn't coach people because I feel like, especially when it comes to maybe football or basketball or anything, I would feel like I would be too aggravated. I feel like I would need to be on the scout side, the training side, but I wouldn't be able to be the coach or be the trainer just because it's just, that's too much going on, and I would just go crazy because I would just be like, why aren't you progressing? Why aren't you progressing? That's how I feel like I would be. So let's dive into a little bit of talking about the EDGE program. So you were kind of giving me bits and pieces of those ideas and everything that was going on with that. Kind of let people know what the EDGE program is, and just in case, you know, they want to get their kids involved into it as well, just break down what the EDGE program is and what it consists of.
The EDGE program is a program that started 4 or 5 years ago that deals with speed, agility, and quickness and explosiveness in running. I put that program together because one of the tools of baseball is speed. And so I decided that in watching youth baseball, there's a need for speed, there's a need to develop speed, also there's a need for players to run correctly. And so what I decided to do is put this program together to meet those needs, to do with linear speed, strengthening conditioning, explosive action, because baseball is a game of patterns. And when as you go up in the game, you have to be able to meet certain measurables. So I try to teach them to meet certain measurables in baseball.
So you said it was a game of patterns. What would you say, you said speed was big, but what would you say the most important thing in regards to baseball and being able to be successful at it?
High skill level, great mental makeup, the ability to be coached, the ability to adapt and change, the ability to have a strong mind when you're failing, the ability to continue to work hard on your skills, and most importantly, the ability to have the coach to trust you that you can execute what he wants you to do.
Oh, see, that's funny because, I mean, y'all always used to say, you and Philip used to talk about it, and y'all always used to say that you could fail 70% of the time and you can be a millionaire by playing baseball.
Yes, you could.
So that's a very interesting thing. So it's like, I don't know if any other sport works that way, but definitely that one does. So how did you even come up with the name of the company? You know, because C.A.A.P.S School of Baseball is, I'm sure there's periods between each letter. How did you even come up with the name, and, you know, how'd that come about?
I decided to not just try to focus on helping kids become professional baseball players, which is very hard to do, but I tried to focus on creating a program that they can become college baseball players. The acronym C.A.A.P.S means College Academic Athletic Programs. And so when I work with players, I tend to emphasize them going to college or Division I, II, or III, but I also, or junior college, but I also understand there's some players I work with to be drafted. But I try to emphasize the academic side of sports more than they become student athletes.
Okay. So, you know, obviously academics are important. The game is important. I had a question in my mind and I just went blank. So we're gonna go to another question, y'all. Just one second, y'all. So in regards of the C.A.A.P.S School of Baseball, how did you like raise funding for it? Was it something that you worked hard, you put your own money in? Did you have investors come in? How did you raise funding to start the program?
I didn't raise any funds at all to start the program. I was very fortunate in 2005. I got a call from Katy National Little League that allowed me to, they adopted my program as the official program. They gave me access to 500 and 600 families. That right there was a shot in the arm for me to carry on my business. I went out to Katy for 11 years. It's 44 miles from where I live. And I started not to go, but I decided to go. And I stayed there 11 years, and that also helped me build my income to do what I needed to do.
So that had to be stressful. I mean, I'm not a big driver. I do not like driving. So if anybody ever wants to drive, I definitely allow them to drive. Like, how hard was that just going back and forth pretty much 2 hours a day, because the hour there and an hour back to your house?
It was very difficult, very challenging, but it was rewarding. I was able at that particular time to really develop some good relationships, expand my business model, help kids get college scholarships. So the reward was worthwhile for me to do it.
Yes, I'm telling you. Whew, I still probably couldn't do it. Only for $1 million. Only for $1 million. So, let's go back in time a little bit, because you kind of told me that, what's her name? Barbara Walters asked this question. So I'd like to ask this question to you as well, to see how you'd respond to it, and see if anything from this inspired you to want to create the company. Because you said it came from, what you said, 95, correct, or 94? What made you want to own your own company? Because that's the one thing I always tell people: they need to know the information on how to own a company. Because I feel like when you're working a 9 to 5, the stress level of somebody else telling you what to do, a stress level of someone telling you when to wake up, and you're working for somebody else, how does that differentiate basically from the RBI program, when you're working with that, to the C.A.P.S school, being your own owner of your business?
The most important thing that I enjoy about this is my ability to choose. To choose where I want to work, who I want to work with, the ability to travel when I need to travel. With the city of Houston, I could not travel because I had strict hours.
Yeah.
But when I got my own business, I traveled to Spain, I've traveled to Zimbabwe, I've been able to travel all over the world and dealing with baseball. I like the freedom to choose and move around.
So, in regards to the C.A.P.S School of Baseball, how do you, because I know it's evolved over time and it's not the same as it was when you first started out. How do you even generate any new ideas to expand the business? Do you watch YouTube clips? Do you talk to network with other people that get ideas? How do you get ideas to expand it?
I expanded my business by listening to parents. I listened to what they liked and what they didn't like when they had other trainers. And those things they didn't like, I didn't do. It's interesting when you are in the business field, you keep up, of course, with your sport, you keep up the standard, you keep up the changes. I watch a lot of baseball, but I listen to what people say. I listen to what they say when they're talking to others. I listen to what they say when they're talking to me. And I say, if they have those needs, then I need to design something to meet those needs. Because if they're saying that, that may be commonplace.
See, that's good. As long as you listen to people, that's a tidbit that y'all need to hear right there. If you own a business or anything like that, make sure you listen to your customers. Make sure you listen to the audience of the people that are pursuing you or purchasing your product. That is a very important key. I like that. So let's dive a little bit back into the EDGE program, or somewhat about the youth baseball. How do you think how can I put this? Because you're impacting people, because you're getting them pretty much at a young age, and then they're able to grow from your program and go to different places and be successful in different places in life. How else do you want the youth to be successful? Obviously academics, but how do you want them to be successful just outside of music? Outside of baseball, but then within baseball, is there lessons that they can take from baseball into real life?
There's lessons of leadership in baseball. There's lessons in working with others in baseball. There's lessons of following instruction in baseball. There's lessons of being a good teammate in baseball, because when you get in the real world, start working with an industry or with businesses, you gotta be a team player. There's responsibility, individual responsibility. There is a desire to be creative. All these different dynamics plays a part in youth development in sports as well.
See, that is a tidbit. I always do that sometimes. When I hear a good saying, they need to go ahead. Whenever you see this interview again, rewind that part back, because that is a good tidbit. Because what I consider is sports like a microcosm to life. So if a lot of the lessons that you learn from the sports activities that you do, and a lot of lessons that I learned specifically from my situation within music, it can relate to life verbatim. So you have to make sure that you pay attention to the journey of everything that you have going on, and not just focus on the end goal and the end destination of what's about to happen. So let's go into when you were talking about the hitting and the strategy within youth baseball. Go a little bit more deeper in context about that.
Well, one of the things that I find very important in the work that I do is having the ability to recognize the talent level and skill of the athlete. I spend a lot of time videotaping players because it gives me a real insight into how their biomechanical, how their body works. For example, I teach the art of hitting. I teach hitting like an art because it is an art form. The first thing I do with any player I get, I got to do the evaluation of that athlete. How does his body move? How strong is he? How much bat speed does he have? Does he work within his triangle? Does he exert his energy the right way? All these are the kind of dynamics I look for. Once I figure out that player by putting him on the video screen and watching, breaking him down, then I go watch that player play. I want to see is what I'm seeing here, he does it on the field. Once I get an idea of what that player is doing, then I create a program just for that athlete because players come to me with different needs. So I find out what the needs are. Then I put them in a 90-day program. 90-day program, I put them on hitting lessons, I put them on strength and conditioning program. I also teach them how to use their T-work. I also teach them how to video themselves in their T-work. They send all that to me and I'm always communicating that way. It's very interactive that way.
Oh, nice. So, see, that's good too as well. Just to be able to be adaptable to the people that you're working with. You know, that's a big tidbit. There's a lot of tidbits in this one, to be honest with you, but that is really a big one because not everybody's the same, not everybody operates the same, not everybody has the same motivation. So you actually have to inherently get to know the person internally before you're able to provide anything externally for them within the baseball program. So before we get into the major league players that you've had in the league as well, tell us a little bit more about the baseball theory class that you requested.
I teach a baseball theory class, and that class is designed to deal with the strategies, the knowledge, the insight of playing the game of baseball. I have a class that these players go to, and I give them an exam after the class. The class lasts 5 weeks. I go through all the nuances of baseball. I give them a test, a true or false test. There's no text.
No multiple choice.
No,
Okay, I got you. No essays, nothing like that.
It's either you know the information or you don't know the information.
Yeah.
And after that, they get a certificate of completion. And I try to have that program once or twice a year. That allows them to understand theory because you can have all the skills you want, but you got to know how to play the game. And that's what we emphasize in that class.
Yeah, I think a lot of other sports need to do that as well because I feel like, well, maybe certain sports, but all sports are mental first before it gets to the physical. But definitely like baseball and golf are really mental sports. So it's good that you actually do that so they can actually be almost like their mind's like a hamster wheel. So it keeps going about what they can get better at in their skills. So now whenever they watch a major league game, a college game, a high school game, or go to a friend's game, they can kind of see more of the nuances and the intricacies of what's actually happening within the game.
What's interesting is that most of the time when I get a player and I start talking with that athlete, one of the questions I ask them, do they watch baseball? And 80% of the kids I have don't watch baseball.
Wow.
It's staggering because
That's weird.
me growing up, I watched baseball all the time. And so if you're not watching the game and just playing the game, there's just a lot of information, visual information that commentators are talking about, former pro players are talking about, that you can educate yourself. I think it's also important that we educate our youth in the sport of baseball. Not just the physical part of it, but the mental part of it, the concepts, the ideas about the sport.
So what would you say about kind of how the sport is now today? Because a lot of players don't look like us that play the game. How do you think we could make it more marketable for them to want to play?
I tell you what, Major League Baseball, NFL, and the NBA, I don't think Major League Baseball does a very good job of marketing their product like the other two.
Yeah.
Plus,
What do you mean by that?
Well, when I say marketing your product, you've got to market to the generation to meet the needs of this generation. This generation is a fast, technical thinking generation. The game of baseball may be just a little too slow for them. But you have to be able to have models that they can identify with, and also make the game interesting. To some young people, the game is just too long.
Mm-hmm.
You have to shorten the game. So some things can be done with that, but I think baseball needs to do a better job at that.
And how do you think they could actually shorten the game? Because the game's 9 innings every single time. So
7 innings.
7 innings? You think they should shorten it to 7 innings? That'd be interesting. I feel like the game usually is decided by 7 innings, but then there comes a financial side of that when it comes to mid-relievers, things like that. So people would start getting jobs cut. Closers, you'd have to have maybe less closers, so maybe it would save money financially on the back end, but it'd be interesting to see how they would do that.
You might have to do something radical to get this generation interested in baseball, because in this generation, the attendance is going to drop pretty soon, even if it's dropping now. And you have to find some way to capture that audience. Mm-hmm. The baseball average, I think the average age of watching baseball is 50 and up. That's an older generation. You have to find a way to tap into the younger generation to keep your product viable.
College baseball's doing a good job.
but college baseball is exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So how come do you think it's not as exciting, or MLB's not as exciting?
Let me give you an example of that. When I watch a college baseball game, when a batter bunts the runner over and the runner gets to second base, or the player comes to the dugout, everybody comes out of the dugout, there's an excitement there. The college game is where these guys are probably playing to get to the next level, but they're playing with such enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And I think it has a lot to do with it. There's a lot of energy being expended.
So do you also think if they're going to shorten the game, don't you also think they need to shorten the season?
That's another option.
Mm-hmm.
That's another option.
I was thinking that too, because maybe that's a lack of excitement from the players, because when you're playing 162 games, you're traveling, you got to do interviews, you got to do all these things. They might have to do a little bit more than college players have to do. So maybe there's a whole rehaul that they have to do and have to figure out.
That's a very good point, because they play 162 games in the season, but we also got to consider preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Or
spring training, all of that.
They may play 35, so they may play close to 200. If they get in the playoffs, they may play 225 games. So that may have something to do with the fatigue factor and all that. I understand that.
Yeah. So let's dive into, we'll go back into the questioning era of what I have, but let's kind of dive into the MLB players that you had. I have a list of them, and I've actually met some of them. I don't think I met Carl Crawford, even though I know who he is. James Loney, I met him a few times. Michael Bourne, never met him, but I know who that is. Kyle McCullough, I know who that is. I met him. Barrett Barnes, and obviously my brother Philip Stringer. Kind of, I wouldn't say break down each quality behind the person, but let's go ahead and let's actually do that, because I feel like that would be good. So let's just start off with Carl Crawford and with our brother, or your son, my brother Philip Stringer. But we'll end with that. But what would you say the best ability and the trait that Carl Crawford had as a baseball player?
I met Carl Crawford when he was 15 years old. He played at Smokey Jasper Little League. And when Carl came to our RBR tryout, I couldn't believe the physical ability he had. Carl was about 6 foot. He's a tremendous athlete. He's recruited by UCLA, and also Nebraska played football as a quarterback. And of course, he was going to be drafted in first or second round. Our first tryout, when Carl tried out, he played center field, and we were hitting fly balls to him. Every ball we hit, he caught, no matter where we put it. Carl also was very fast. His 60 time, he ran a 6.260 when he was 16 years old. And Carl was just a tremendous athlete. His scouting report, they were comparing him in his scouting report, and I read his scouting report to Ken Griffey Jr. That's the kind of athlete he was projected to be. James Loney came to me from Elkin High School. James was a tremendous hitter, a gap-to-gap hitter, a tremendous defender at first base. He also was a very good pitcher in high school. James got drafted by the Dodgers in the first round. Chris Young went to Bel Air High School, got drafted by the White Sox, ended up playing for the Diamondbacks. Chris was a great offensive player, great center fielder, great arm, good physical specimen, very athletic. Michael Bourne played basketball, and I think he played basketball and baseball. He went to Nimitz High School. He was in our program. Michael Bourne was just very fast, had some tools, good offensive player, ended up going to University of Houston, got drafted by the Phillies, and then playing 13 years in the big leagues. Jason Bourgeois went to Forest Brook, tremendous shortstop. Jason got drafted by the Texas Rangers second round. My son Philip, of course, went to Tulane University, went to Auburn University, ended up being drafted in the 24th round by the Astros. Those are some of the players that came through the RBI program.
So what would you say Phillips' best trait was? Because I remember we used to talk back in the day, and weren't you say they were comparing him to, was it Ricky Henderson?
They were comparing him to Jimmy Rollins.
Jimmy Rollins, there you go.
Philip was very skillful, very skillful. Size was an issue for him. He always had to contend with the fact that he wasn't very big, but he had all the skills. Mm-hmm. And I would think that if he would have probably got drafted by another club, he might have stayed a little longer.
Yeah, no dissing the Astros here. No dissing that. And Mike, I don't know what you're saying right at the moment, but because the phone's a little distant from me. But if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat, and I'll go ahead and pencil it in, and I'll go ahead and ask it after this one.
But all those players had one thing in common: they had tremendous passion for the game. They worked hard. They didn't assign blame to others when they weren't performing. And I knew those boys personally. I interacted with them. In fact, I saw Michael Bourne last week. I hadn't seen Michael in 15 years. Mm-hmm. But we had a conversation last week, and it was good to see him. But I see those guys periodically.
Oh, nice. See, I remember Kyle McCullough. Did he play with Philip in the Outlaws?
Kyle McCullough played with the Outlaws.
Yeah, there you go. I remember
the University
that.
of Texas. Yeah. And he also got drafted by, I believe it was the White Sox.
I haven't seen him in forever. I know it's a long time. And I have a friend too, it's Tyler Naquin, that plays for the Reds as well, so that's pretty cool too. Let's see here. So let's kind of dive deeper into the C.A.P.S School of Baseball as well. Let's go back to that. How have your priorities changed since you first started the C.A.P.S School of Baseball? Because obviously when you first start a business, it can kind of be all over the place. Even if you have a strategic plan, you don't really know what's going to happen next. So how have your priorities changed from the beginning till now?
My priorities have changed based upon what I see and where the baseball industry is going. Since Philip works in Major League Baseball, he's an international cross-checker for the Reds. He also worked for the Dodgers for 6 years, 2 years with the Royals. I have a chance to ask him, what does he see in the baseball landscape? Mm-hmm. And so what he tells me, he's seeing where baseball is going, it gives me an idea of how I can train my athletes toward that direction. Mm-hmm. For example, he's been in the Dominican. He talks to me about players over there, and how they look and how they train. I try to find a way to keep up with where the industry is going. Mm-hmm. Not saying all these kids will be pro players one day. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, if I can get them thinking about doing things where baseball is going, maybe I give them a chance even to play a college baseball as well.
No, nice. See, that's good. So we'll kind of dive into maybe the most satisfying moment you've had with the player. I'm not going to assume it's a player getting drafted by a team. It could be a whole different scenario, a whole different situation. It could be a player that might not have been good when he got there, but then he became pretty good when he left, and then he became something else in life, or he went to the pros. What would you say the most satisfying moment in regards to your C.A.P.S School of Baseball program that you've had with a player?
I had a player, and I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah.
Who was with me for 2 years. I got him when he was 13, and he was with me for 2 years, and he was struggling at the plate. And so his father called me and said that his son was going to quit baseball. Mm-hmm. So I told him to put his son on the phone, and I told him, I said, listen, if you do exactly what I tell you to do, you'll improve. He ended up going to Texas Tech, started as a freshman in the field, got drafted by the Pirates, signed for $1.5 million. But he was going to quit, and I wouldn't let him.
Man, I know. He has the call. He better give you some of that check.
I saw his mother one day. I was out doing hitting lessons with another player, and I saw this lady running across the field, and I stopped the lesson. It was his mother. Mm-hmm. She looked at that dad and said, whatever he tells you to do, you do it.
Oh, wow. Maybe he's doing the 1.5 treatment too.
well, that was satisfying, not because I did something, It was satisfying because he was on the verge of quitting, and I knew that there was more in him than what he was experiencing. And I didn't let him quit. I told his father he can't quit. And so his father said, Coach Stringer said, you can't quit, so you're not going to quit. He went on, had a great college career, made All-American, Division I baseball, signed with the Pirates for $1.5 million.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good story right there. That's a story for the books. Should have put that in the biography. So, so I know it can be like rigorous going through the process, having to get up, train kids. Some kids might be knuckleheads, some are good kids. To each its own. So, what keeps you motivated to keep going and keep doing this over and over again?
I enjoy interacting with them. I also learn something about myself. I become more patient. Becoming a good athlete, particularly a good baseball player, it's a long journey. It's a long journey. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of failure. It's a lot of striking out. A lot of missing balls. It's a lot of setbacks. But I get enjoyment out of seeing the player push through. I call it climbing the ladder. I call it overcoming the mountain. I have a picture that I give some of my players, and the picture has a guy standing on the top of a mountain. And I say to them, tell me what you see in this mountain. They tell me there's clefts in the rocks. They say there's jagged edges. They say there's ditches. I said, but what do you see? He said, we see the guy who was able to overcome all those to get to the mountain. And I give my players that. And I said, stick this in your room. When you want to quit, just remember this. You're trying to make it over to that mountain. And I also went to the community one time and took a picture of a broken down, abandoned home and a new home. And I gave it to my athletes and said, what's the difference between these two photographs? They said, one has value, one doesn't. I said, every time you train, you're adding value to yourself. Add value to yourself, then you'll be useful to a program.
Oh, nice. See, that's a good tidbit too as well. Knowledge is power, I'm telling you right now. So, this 35 minutes kind of flew by. So, I always tell people I got 2 questions left. You already know the last question I'm going to ask you. I hope you read that text. So, how I kind of ended is I go ahead and ask you these last 2 questions. After I ask you the last question, I let you know, like, hey, is there any advice you would like to give to everyone? And then I go ahead and close out the show. So, knowing what you know now in the experience and everything you gained from owning this business, going through RBI, having the Edge program, having a son that also was drafted as well, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently?
It's difficult. I think what I probably would have done differently was expanded my pie, gotten maybe bigger. Because when you do the work that I do and you set up a system, sometimes you're not as trusting of others with your system because it comes out of your head. If I were to do something different, I would have gotten together with a cadre of individuals and created colleagues that take this system and replicate it.
Oh, nice. See, that's good because I
Or
feel
franchising.
like, yeah, the networking is probably one of the biggest things that you can actually do in any business. Your network is your net worth. Always remember that, yo. That is a gigantic tidbit as well. So, this is the last question. I'll ask the last question. I'll ask if there's any advice. I'll go ahead and read the comments, see if anybody has any questions or any statements that they might have stated, and then I'll go ahead and close out the show. So, Martin Stringer, C.A.P.S School of Baseball, my dad as well. How do you define success?
The accomplishment of an aim or purpose.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it? Short and sweet. I didn't think it was going to be that simple. Usually people have a whole soliloquy, a whole paragraph, and what they have to say behind it. Okay, I like that. So it seems like what you're pretty much saying how to define success is focus.
Focus, aim, have a purpose, pursue those purposes. Don't quit, don't give up. There's going to be setbacks, that's a part of it. Anything worth having, there's going to be setbacks.
Okay, I like that. That goes for everything, y'all. That's not just baseball, that's an everything thing. So I'm going to go ahead and read the statements and what people might have said in the chat as well, and then I'll go ahead and close out the show. Let's see here. What's up, Mike? What's up, Josh? What's up, Hip Hop Zone? What's up, Banks? Let me see here. Alex, Quincy. A lot of people came in. I didn't see that. Mike said excellent information. He said Carl Crawford, been watching him since Jeff Davis High School. Straight up stud. He also said Michael Borden played at my alma mater, Nimitz High School. He was right. Also an excellent basketball player, so fast. Oh, he also asked, did you ever see Josh Beckett play?
Yes, I did.
I remember seeing him. Didn't he go to Spring High School? Yeah, he went to
yes.
Spring High School. Yeah, definitely. He said, how was Ricky Weeks as an early on talent? Just curious.
Outstanding.
Outstanding? Let's see here. Man, you need to bring Mr. Stringer on the radio station. We need to have tons of questions for him. There you go. I probably can, man. I mean, I got to straight connect to him, so we can definitely make that happen. So, I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. I close out the show the same way every time. If you don't remember anything he said or anything I said, always remember, mind your business. Peace.
Good feedback, huh?
Yeah, definitely. People will comment more. There are a lot of people who jump in, so a lot of people jump in, jumped out. That's how it is on live. Let me go ahead and end this.